So, you want to move to Bangkok. How's it going, you handsome devil? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the wonderful Bangkok, Thailand. Now, when I say wonderful, of course, that is very specific to me. It is wonderful in my eyes because I look for things in a city that you may not. Yesterday, I was perusing the bowels of the internet as I tend to do in my free time, and I came across quite a few posts of people talking about how they did not enjoy Bangkok. They didn't get the hype, they couldn't wait to leave, they just really had nothing positive to say about it. And I thought about it, and I was like, wow, I love Bangkok. So that made me think about today's video. I went ahead and I gathered 9 or 10 different things that I noticed a lot of people tend not to think about too much, myself included, and these are just realities that come with living in Bangkok. And if at any point in the video we come across something and you think to yourself, well, I just really don't like that, that is not something I want to deal with every single day, then honestly, Bangkok might not be the place for you. Now, before we get started, this is in no way intended to bash Bangkok. This is in no way to say that Bangkok is not worth living in. As we mentioned, I love it here personally. These aren't also not things that you might not be able to get past. These are kind of just daily things that can be a bit annoying, honestly can be a bit of a nightmare at some point. Make sure you stick it out through the entire video because I can guarantee there's gonna be at least a few of these that you might not have thought about fully. So let's get into it. Our first point, one that I still see quite often, it's become more prevalent, I feel like, especially in the past year or so. Bangkok, compared to many other places in Thailand, is not necessarily budget friendly. Now, that's not to say you can't live here on a tighter budget, but there's people out there, you know, making Instagram reels of them signing some lease and, oh, me signing my lease for my $250 a month luxury apartment. That is not true. Now, Bangkok is absolutely massive, which is going to be a recurring theme throughout the video. But since it is so big, there's lots and lots of options for condos, neighborhoods, you name it. So if you are on a budget, you can make it happen in Bangkok. But honestly, if you are on a pretty tight budget, you're trying to keep it as minimal as possible, there may be better places in Thailand for that specifically. Now, when you first hop online doing your research, if you want to come spend some time here, one thing you're going to see over and over again is the land of smiles. Everybody talking about how friendly the locals are. And yes, this is true. But one thing when it comes to Bangkok, of course, Bangkok being the absolutely massive metropolitan that it is the capital of Thailand. There are a lot of locals here that are just trying to, you know, get shit done. They've got places to go, they've got things to do, they're professionals or maybe they're university students, and, you know, people just got places to go. One major difference I noticed when I moved here is a lot of places in Thailand, you get that, you know, sabai lifestyle. Everybody just kind of like, you know, we'll get there when we get there. No rush, you know, it's whatever. Everybody's kind of just chilling. That can be much different in Bangkok. Now, that's not to say that people aren't friendly, but, you know, the odds of you walking down the street and getting stopped by a local just striking up a conversation with you, it's pretty minimal. I have seen quite a few people mention, oh, hey, like people just aren't friendly in Bangkok. You know, it's not like anywhere else. And while I can understand that, I don't necessarily believe it's true. Another thing, of course, with it being such a huge place is there's just more people to make friends with. There's more people to meet, but that also isn't a guarantee, which is yet another point we'll get into here in a bit. And our next point, which is very relevant given today, don't get me wrong, it's hot everywhere in Thailand. Pretty much all the time, all year round, unless you go up some super tall mountains in Chiang Mai or something. But especially in Bangkok, man, it feels like the weather is just personally out almost every single day to just kind of make you miserable, honestly. So I've noticed here, granted, I haven't been here for the full year yet, but what I've noticed so far is it's either pouring down rain and, you know, the roads are flooded, or it's a day like today. Luckily, there's a bit of a breeze, but if I wasn't sitting in the shade, I would already be sweating bullets. It seems like it is either hotter than the 7th circle or it's pouring down rain. Now, There's going to be a bit of that pretty much no matter where you go in Thailand, but there are some areas that are cooler. There are some areas that rain a little bit less, especially if you're down south, anywhere by the water. Of course, you're going to get that breeze coming off of the water. But I'll tell you, if you are somebody who is sensitive to the heat, I'm not sure if Bangkok is the spot. Now, granted, unlike where I'm from, Bangkok does make an effort to kind of design the city around the fact that it is so miserably hot all the time. If you're somebody that doesn't like the heat, if you're somebody that doesn't like the rain, that is something to consider. There's nowhere in Thailand you can go to just completely get away from both, but Bangkok especially rains a lot. When it's not raining, it is crazy hot. So if that's something that could be a deal breaker for you, I would think about it, to be honest. Now, before we get into our next point, I want to hear from you. If you've spent some time in Bangkok, what was one of the things that you didn't really think about before you got here that surprised you, either good or bad? Something you didn't consider, and then once you spend some time here, you're like, wow, I did not really think this was a thing. Let me know down in the comments below, because I'm sure we've missed a few points here. It would be impossible for me to cover every single one, so let me know what you think. And I'll tell you, since buying a car, I have noticed 100% more how much traffic is an absolute nightmare. Traffic is a thing, no matter where you go in Thailand, really. You're gonna have to deal with it at least some. The greater Bangkok area is around 12 million people. I just looked that up the other day. That is absolutely insane. Granted, it's not as common for people here to have cars, but with 12 million people, even if, only a third of them own a car, that's still an insane amount of cars. And I'm sure you've seen the videos, sure you've heard the stories. But another thing that comes with that, something that I didn't really think about, is it's not only traffic in the roads. Being such a big city, so many people, no matter where you are really, if you're somebody who doesn't like crowds, if you're somebody who doesn't like waiting in lines, if you're somebody who doesn't like waiting for a table at a restaurant, that is something I really think you should consider if you're planning on coming to Bangkok. It's not just roads, even if you're just, planning on taking the BTS everywhere, for example. The BTS is crowded. Regularly, you're packed in there, man. So, me, as I've gotten older, I have become less fond of the absolutely massive crowds. I would understand, maybe you're planning on retiring here or something. You kind of just want to be able to have your own space, do your own things, be places where it's quiet. That honestly, that's going to be really hard to find in most of Bangkok. Now, speaking of BTS and things that are hard to find, and 12 million people for that matter, I knew Bangkok was big before I got here. But before you live here, you really can't wrap your head around it, unless maybe you're like from Los Angeles, somewhere like that. Bangkok is huge. It's really important to think about which neighborhood you want to be in. And it's also really important to consider if you have the plan, I'm going to go out, I'm going to explore the city, I want to see this and here and this here and this here. Everything is further away than you think. Even me with a car and the BTS and everything, most stuff is a mission. Kind of the running joke here is if it's an hour's drive away, that's close, especially when it comes to, a lot of the conventions, concerts, like outdoor things. It's completely normal for it to be come all the way on the other side of town. And it is an absolute journey, no matter which way you try to get there, whether you take the train, whether you drive, whether you take a taxi, it's going to take you a lot of time to get around. So I think this is one that's really important, especially if you're only going to be here for a relatively short amount of time. If you're only going to be here for a few weeks, it's going to be really hard to get around and see the entire city. It's not impossible by any means. A lot of people do it, but if you are planning on moving here, I think that just makes it even more important to really research what part of town you want to be in. If you're planning on doing a specific thing a lot of the time, it's important to look up where that usually goes on. And ideally, you want to be close to it because, if you have plans for the day and you got to plan around 2.5, even 3 hours of commuting on top of it, it can get pretty old, pretty quick. Now, we mentioned earlier the weather. The weather's just waking up and choosing violence every single day, it feels like. Something that's gonna come with that, whether you like it or not, is you are probably gonna end up spending a lot more time indoors than you might be thinking right now, if you've never been here before. If you're one of the people like me, when I get to a new place, one of my favorite things to do the first few days is just go walk. Let's just go walk around. Let's explore the neighborhood. Let's see what's around here. You can do that in Bangkok, but it can be pretty brutal. If you're planning on, I'm gonna get around and I'm gonna cruise around the city every single day. I'm gonna go, walk from here to here. It gets pretty rough pretty quick. Even if you don't mind the heat, you're starting to walk into places, you're an absolute sweaty mess. What ends up happening a lot of the time, at least for me at this point, is you kind of end up planning your day around where the AC is. You're like, okay, we'll go here and we'll walk from here to here and go shopping, and we'll walk from the train to here, and then we'll pop into the mall real quick because the mall has great AC. And like we mentioned, Bangkok does make a pretty conscious effort, from what I've seen, to try to design the infrastructure in the city to try to make it as least miserable as possible. And most of the time, like today, if you are in the shade, it's nowhere near as bad. But if I was out here for 5 or 6 hours, I would get sweaty. I would feel gross. It gets old pretty quick. If you are somebody who just loves to be outside and loves to just walk everywhere, and never have to take time inside to take a time out, that is something to consider. Granted, if you can deal with the heat well, carry a towel with you, lots of water, whatever, you can definitely make it happen. But a lot of, most people's entertainment or what they end up doing for fun once they get to Bangkok, most of the time it's inside. Now, I know a lot of people, myself included, a big part of wanting to come to Thailand is to experience Thailand, see what the country does different, get a little taste of the culture. One thing that will end up happening if you live in Bangkok is it can be, especially if you've never spent time anywhere else, it can be really easy to get in the Bangkok mindset and end up kind of thinking that Bangkok is Thailand. Of course, that's not true. Every city, every region is very different, but I have seen, both sides of it. I've seen people that come here and they think Bangkok is Thailand and they end up loving it. And then on the other side, I've seen people that think this is Thailand and they end up having a really negative idea of what the country is. Something that will end up happening, like we mentioned, with the distance and the traffic and stuff, to, just the logistics of getting to a lot of places, unless you're going to the airport, it can really end up kind of keeping you in your Bangkok bubble, which is both good and bad. There's lots of stuff to do. It's really easy to stay entertained in Bangkok or, work, whatever you need to do. But if you really are planning on coming to Thailand and learning about the country and the way of life and things that might be different compared to your country, it is really important to get out of Bangkok. Make a solid effort to get out to some other places, and that'll honestly either make you love Bangkok a lot more or not. We have now made it to the coup de grace. The thing that, when I see posts about people moving on from Bangkok, at least when it comes to expats or tourists for that matter too, the thing I see most often. Now, if you've never been here and you listen to these points today, it could be really easy to just assume, oh, well, it's a massive city, millions of people. It's gonna be really easy for me to meet people and make friends and build a social circle. The truth is, in all of Thailand, not just in Bangkok, but especially in Bangkok, it can be surprisingly isolating. I've said it many times on this channel, if you are gonna be here long-term, it is so important to make an active effort to go out and meet people and build those friend groups. The truth of it is, as a foreigner here, it can be really difficult to make Thai friends. And what I see happening to a lot of people that come to Bangkok especially is the frustration that comes with that ends up kind of just putting you in your little bubble. All of these things together, whether it be the traffic, the commutes, all that stuff, a lot of people just end up staying in their little neighborhood, going to the same 3 or 4 places, which, if you're cool with that, by all means. But especially if you're a bit younger, I think it is important to build relationships here. Not only for your mental health, but sometimes things are gonna come up, and having some Thai friends to help you out is absolutely, it's invaluable. Like having some people to, how do I deal with this? That's really good. It can be really hard to find that in Bangkok. For being such a massive city and being so, hustle and bustle and everybody's moving around, it can be surprisingly isolating sometimes. So if you are planning on moving here, especially, I really suggest sitting down, write down the things that you like to do, your hobbies or stuff you want to experience, and then make sure you are sticking to that. And when you go out, don't be afraid to talk to people. Try to make friends with locals. If anything, there are plenty of other expats here, so you can also do that. But I see a lot of people that come here and they feel like they just kind of get lost in the speed of the city, right? You see so much going on, especially if maybe you're retired, you're gonna be here, kind of just be chilling. Most people around you are working or going to university or whatever, so it can be hard to kind of get into a swing with new people, but I think that is so important. Most people I see leaving the city, and Thailand as a whole for that matter, is because they didn't really feel like they had become a part of their community, or they didn't really feel like Thailand had become their home. So if any of the things we've talked about today are kind of a go, no go for you, if you don't want to deal with any of these things, if you want to be somewhere where these things aren't even something you have to think about, I suggest maybe looking around, to the rest of Thailand. Don't get me wrong, I love Bangkok. I moved here for a reason, but I understand what I like in a place to live may not be the same as you. So I would really think about any of these points if they kind of struck home for you. Are these really make or break things? If so, no worries. There's plenty of other places in the country you can go. If you did make it this far in the video, thank you so much for hanging out. It feels like a hurricane is about to blow in or something. I'm gonna go get some lunch. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. I hope you have a great day. If you'd like to see more from Thailand, you know what to do. All those funky little buttons are down below. I'll see you in the next one.